Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it. Good morning, y'all. Thank you guys for coming out. Microphones make me nervous, so if my hand is shaking, I'm okay. I'm just nervous. My brand is called Patricio. It is short for Crescente Patricio. My slogan is different yet familiar. It's kind of my design mantra of how I design everything. But I kind of wanted to take you through the evolution of my brand and take you through design revelations I've had throughout my journey and just sharing with you my process and how my perspective has been formed. So first, I want to show you the evolution of my logo. Started in 2017, 2018. This first logo, everything was at that time very DIY. This DIY generation was starting to boom, especially with YouTube. People wanted to do things on their own and do it for themselves. Very independent. There was a lot of handwritten elements in a lot of things, and so my very first logo was just handwritten. I didn't really know how to start something, start a business, so it was just a lot of doing what I could do on my own. And that evolved into these signatures over here, which are both of my grandfather's signatures. This brand is called Crescente Patricio because it's named after both of my grandfathers. And I am named after both of my grandfathers. My name is Crespatrick. I was actually born on the death day of my grandfather, Patricio. So that's why my parents decided to call me Crespatrick. And I named the brand after them because they both passed before I was born. I didn't know anything about them. It wasn't until I got into like my 20s I started asking questions about them, and from there I kind of discovered they were the ones who really cared about clothing in my family. My grandfather Patricio taught my mother how to take care of her clothes, how to iron a shirt. She taught me how to iron a shirt. My grandfather Crescente was in the military in the Philippines, and he was very militant about how he dressed and how he passed that on to my father and his siblings. So I was like, I want this brand to be a legacy of theirs, a continuation of them. Even though I never met them, I am part of their legacy, so this is part of their legacy. And from there, the logo kind of evolved with a buddy of mine, Max Coots, who works with me on my brand. He kind of created a font for it, took the signatures, overlaid it, and then we also kind of took a more minimal approach to the logo and the brand, forming Patricio. I think a lot of us, when we start something as artists, entrepreneurs, when we create something, we have self-talks. We talk to ourselves. Sometimes they're good self-talks, sometimes they're bad self-talks. A lot of times it's a mix of both. And these were kind of conversations I was having with myself when I first started my brand. I have no idea what I'm doing. Do what you can with what you have. Tell stories. I'm like an indie artist, but for clothes. I am an artist. Tell stories. Be like an indie rapper. Make a clothing mixtape. Tell stories. I still don't know what I'm doing. God created me to create. Keep telling stories. These were some conversations I was having with myself when I first started my brand. I was like, I don't know how to put a business plan together. I don't know how to put this core collection together. How do I get into these trade shows? People are saying you need like at least 50K to start a brand. I'm like, I don't have near that much money. So I was like, what can I do with what I have? Who am I meant to be? What am I supposed to do? And something I kept coming back to was stories. I was very enamored with designers and brands that could convey a story so eloquently through fabric, through silhouette, through color, through details, with not a single graphic, not a single photo on a piece, but just a garment. And I was always drawn to that. I've never been a graphics guy. I can't design a graphic. Graphic design is not my thing. I can't do it. So to tell a story through graphics is a beautiful thing, but I was like, how do I do that without saying words? How do I make a statement while being silent, essentially? So that started my journey on how do I refine my skills as a designer to tell stories through silhouette, through shapes. And that kind of led me to the first collection that I made. Crescente Patricio presents 2020 Mixtape Volume 1. So this was, as you could see on the right, I hand wrote all of my labels. I kind of gridded it out. I wrote the label. Everything on there was this mixtape, that idea that I had. Every piece was titled like a song. Everything was written out. It's very much me, even to the fact that I misspelled Oklahoma, as you can see there. I'm very bad at spelling, and it wasn't till I finished and I was like, I think I spelled that wrong. And I was like, well, that's just who I am. I'm very bad at spelling. So it's very authentic to me. But this is how I started. It was very DIY. I had zero money to put in this. All of the fabric that I used was this upcycled denim that I found from working in the denim industry in LA. I was in the factories. I got to work hands-on with the whole denim process. So I found these scrap fabrics that would be laying around in the factories that were just wash tests. They would cut a yard, 2 yards of fabric, kind of test out the fabric, and then they kind of get discarded or just sit in the factory for years. So I started taking these things and making pieces out of them, and I made this first collection. And I wanted to take on the mindset like I was an indie artist, specifically an indie rapper. I was inspired a lot by hip hop, still am inspired a lot by hip hop, and just the mentality of like an indie rapper. They kind of conquer their city first. They start from within and grow out from there. So I was like, okay, let me start within my city. Let me grow from there. And they all create mixtapes, which feels very DIY, very gritty, very like, it's very much doing what they can with what they have. So this was just this first collection. And these were all stories about my life, from my inspirations of playing sports growing up, to how I love to put my hands in my pocket, to like a robe. And so these are some photos of just the very first pieces that I created. It's me and my wife, Erica, over here. Again, just doing what I can with what I have. I painted that backdrop. We went into the streets, just posted up and just guerrilla photo shoot on the streets. And it was the first time I really started to tell stories and started to hone my voice as a storyteller. Because I think essentially that is what I wanted to do with my brand, is to tell stories, highlight stories of myself, of others, and just kind of work on my voice as a designer. From there, I created another collection called Dad's Closet. This is pieces from that. I wanted to evolve I was thinking, okay, I did denim for that first collection, but what's next? I started to explore with some wools and some synthetic fabrics and putting that together and trying to tell different stories of how my style evolved through exploring my dad's closet. Because at first I wasn't planning on sticking with denim. It was just that first collection. And then I was like, the world is my oyster. I can do whatever I want. Let me explore different knits, different other types of woven fabrics. And I wanted to explore everything. It wasn't till my wife and I came into a transition in our lives. In 2018, we felt like we were supposed to move to this beautiful city, Dallas, Texas. I had zero desire to come out here. My wife is originally from out here. And when we got married, she would always talk about, would you want to move to Dallas at some point? And I was like, I had no desire. I loved coming out here, loved visiting her family. But the dreams and everything felt like they were in LA. And it wasn't until one Christmas we were visiting her family that I kind of had this spiritual moment that I feel like God is calling us to Dallas and we're supposed to be out there. So I came, not knowing a single person besides her family. We came, no jobs, nothing. I felt like my brand was something I still needed to do and wanted to do, and I was like, I have no idea how to do it from out here. All the factories that I work with are in LA. I don't know if there's factories in Dallas. I don't know if there's denim out there. So I just came. We just came full of hope, excited. And these were some more self-talks I had with myself. I know I'm supposed to be out here, but how am I supposed to be out here? Connect to the city, connect to its people. You need to evolve, protect your creativity. Allow yourself to be surprised. Create within boundaries. The city is fertile ground. Tell stories here. One of the main things I knew I wanted to do was connect to the city, connect to its people. And one of the first people I met coming out here was this guy named Hans Taplin of By Way of Dallas. He was the very first person I met. I found him, I found his brand by way of Dallas, just searching on Instagram. I was like, what's going on in Dallas? I'm like, is there anything cool? Is there fashion scene? Are there brands? Like, who can I connect to and get to know? And I just DM'd him on there. And we started a relationship maybe a couple months before I moved to Dallas. And maybe the second week I was out here, I got coffee with him. And he immediately was the biggest cheerleader of what I was doing. And it was monumental for me because having someone who I didn't really know, but respected so much of what he was doing in his creativity and what he was doing with his brand, it meant a lot to me. And he was actually the one that encouraged me to stay in this lane of denim. He was like, hey man, like you're doing something really unique with denim. Like I don't see anybody else doing it. You kind of have a niche here. He's like, you should just stick with denim. And I was like, whoa, okay. I was like, what does that look like? But kind of narrowing into that really opened my mind. And I've heard before from people that all masterpieces are creating within boundaries. Not saying I'm creating masterpieces, but the idea of just kind of creating with a boundary. Like Matisse, Picasso, they were limited to their boundaries of a canvas and their paints and their oil paints. Sculptors, everyone kind of has their medium and just creates within that. And I was like, okay, what if denim was my medium? And I was like, you know, a lot of times if we have so many options, it kind of stifles us. But when we hone in and we narrow in, I'm like, okay, this is what I have, and I'm just gonna do what I can with what's right in front of me, then a lot of magic starts to happen through that. So I really started to hone in on denim, started to really get connected to the city. Hans introduced me to a lot of people I see in this room was through him, and he was just like a great connector. And coming into the city versus LA, I was like, man, the creatives here are just really inclusive. I've just encountered people just eager to introduce me to other people. Oh, you do this, you need to meet that person. You need this person, you need to meet that person. And it just was just like a snowball effect where, man, I look back now, coming to the city, I was like, I didn't know anybody here. And now I feel like I have thriving community everywhere I go in Dallas. I'm like, man, this is like such a sweet surprise, and just like such a blessing to come into the city and just to know people and to be known in the city. I think that's what we all look for, and I think art, creativity really can connect us in that way. So these are photos of the fabric that I use, and I want to play a video that kind of explains my fabric and just how I use it to create my pieces.
For me, I use all upcycled denim, which is they're called technically shrink blankets. Really quickly, they are just wash tests that a lot of brands will use. They'll cut 1 yard to 2 yards of fabric and wash the fabric to see how much it shrinks. So the pattern maker knows how much bigger to make the garment so it shrinks down to the right size. So after they're done with that information, the stuff is essentially trash. And I had access to these fabrics. I found out about them by working in a denim factory. And so I've taken that stuff to make my pieces out of. The marking and the measurements are just a big part of these are upcycled fabrics. I choose to show those as much as possible, because people will be like, what is this? Why are those numbers? Why, what's this writing all over it? And like, did you write that on there? So I think it's just a way to showcase the story of how I had to, start this brand with what I had at my fingertips. It was kind of like, what can I create out of the limitations that I have? And I think that just tells more of the story of the brand, that we want to use as much trash as we can to make, beautiful things.
So I doubled down on the fabric, all those, the shipping containers and the pallets of fabric. I just went to LA and made relationship with a factory that I source everything from. I knew I wanted to get like high quality denim, not just denim that was made for, fast fashion, but I made a relationship with a factory out there that produces all luxury denim. So I was getting like scraps from these high-end brands, all American, all Japanese, Italian, Turkish denim, which is that though they house some of the best denim mills in the world. So I knew I was getting quality stuff and I wanted to create quality pieces. So I doubled down, got a lot of fabric, and was just like, let me just start to get to work. And I knew I wanted to continue telling stories. So one of the first collections I did out here was called Conversations with God. It was just this came from a place where I was having these conversations with God when I first moved out here. I was kind of feeling a little bit lost. I fell into a bit of a depression because I came from a place that I knew, LA, to a place that I didn't know. And when I first moved out here, it rained for like 6 weeks straight. And I was like, what is happening? Like, what did I just come into? And, we were living out in Flower Mound with her parents, and I was just came from the city into the super suburbs, and I was just like, wow, did we make the wrong choice? So, my relationship with God is the biggest source of inspiration for me. Everything that I seek to do is from an overflow from that place. And this was just something I did to kind of tell that story of where I was in that moment, what I was feeling, and things that God had spoken to me through that time. So after kind of like settling into this town, getting to know some people, and wanting my brand to kind of evolve and grow, these were just more self-talks I was having. What is your Air Force One, Virgil Abloh? I want to be known as a Dallas brand. Romanticize the mundane. The city is a muse. The best stories you can tell are your own. Tell stories about your culture. Be a platform. That first quote from Virgil Abloh, I was listening to a talk he gave, and he had this concept of what is your Air Force One? Essentially, what is the cornerstone piece of your brand? Nike has the Air Force One. It's kind of this cornerstone shoe for them. People keep coming back for the Air Force One. You don't just buy one. You buy one, it gets dirty, you get another one. And essentially, if people want to collaborate with the brand, it's probably going to be an Air Force One. It's kind of their cash cow. It's what funds all these experimental projects that they want to do. It funds everything else. So it's like, he was like, your brand should have an Air Force One. What's the thing that you'll always have, your core piece that you'll always make? People want to come back for it. You'll do a lot of different iterations for it. And so I started to think about that, and then started to think about this city, and I started to really fall in love with Dallas. And I was pleasantly surprised by this town. I was like, there's so much creativity here. There's so much history. Just even the Western culture, the cowboy culture, the workwear roots here. I'm like, there's so much to tap into in this city. I'm like, why isn't this city more of a muse on a wider scale? I think we've seen a bit more of it with just this trend of kind of Western cowboy culture in a lot of things. But I was like, man, there's so much to tap into here. And so I just kind of wanted to be inspired by this city, going out to the farmlands and some ranches and seeing things like that. So with that, taking on that mindset of what is my Air Force One and having the city be a muse, I came up with this jacket. It's called the Saddle Pocket Jacket. I had this idea. I was like, if I was a rancher out here, what kind of jacket do I want to wear? So I started looking at horse saddles, and I saw the pockets on the side of horse saddles. I was like, oh wow, I really love the shape of the pockets on horse saddles. I love the curved edges, the rounded edges on there. I love how big it is. I was like, I think that would be a great pocket to put onto a jacket. So I took the denim jacket and kind of like made it a bit more minimal, modernized it a bit, took out some of the seams of a standard kind of trucker jacket that we're all used to seeing, and put these pockets on there. I was like, I really just want these pockets to be the focus of it, to really anchor this jacket. So I created this, and I put a lot of elements that I wanted to see in it. I love a wider collar, spread collar. I love the rounded edges on that. So just the continued through line, and probably in all my pieces, all edges are rounded. I love when there's like through lines through people's pieces, and having rounded edges is something that is just like a through line through everything I create. But this became my Air Force One. This is like the cornerstone piece of my brand. This is what everything builds off of here. This is something that, to this day, I created this jacket like in 2018, 2019, and to this day, people still love it. I was like, man, I think I have something here. It's hard. I don't know. I don't think people go out trying to create a classic, and I don't know if this is a classic. I think that's still for years to come to decide if something's a classic. But it was just came from a place that was just a genuine place in my heart, and where I was just like, I'm really inspired by this town. I knew I was supposed to move out here, and there was so much just speaking to me at the time. So this is the saddle pocket jacket, and these are just more photos. Skip to this, just more photos I have of how I've just reiterated that piece and done it a bunch of different ways. I create a lot of like one-of-one pieces from it. So when I get those fabrics, sometimes I only have like 3 or 4 of these shrink blankets. So I'm like, okay, I only have enough here to make one. So I make a lot of one-of-one pieces. Maybe it's like just a run of like 3 or 4 of them. So that's just kind of the nature of having these upcycled fabrics. It's very limited run of things. And, you know, found a lot of people love that. People love to have unique things, a piece that they can call their own or a custom piece. So that is a part of the business that I do, of just like, people want a custom piece, custom colorways, like something that we can do. Going back to this is a project I did after I created this saddle pocket jacket. I just really wanted to hone in onto this city. I knew I wanted the brand to also be a platform for others, and I knew I wanted to just highlight more of the creatives in this town. So I created these 2 saddle pocket jackets to feature on some of the artists that I knew out here in Dallas, and I titled it Love Letter to Dallas. I wanted to get these creatives and have them kind of speak on their love for the city, why they think this city is so great. And I just want to play you guys that video.
People from Dallas kind of have this pride about the cities. Like, you know, when you travel somewhere, you make sure to say like, no, I'm from Dallas.
I want people from the outside to know that the creatives here are genuine.
We got a certain type of hustle out here with the Southern charm, you know, and whether people want to listen to it or not, you know, that's kind of up to them.
The city itself and the creatives within it have like this scrappy nature about them. So, you know, that I think kind of fuels a lot of, you know, what we do creatively.
It's almost like you get this vibe from everybody that you could do anything.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Just like the energy of the city is kind of what keeps me going.
I can pop to different parts of the city and get a completely different aesthetic. It will change my emotions, my perspective, and what I'm inspired by.
People that are coming from major cities, but like they're actually flocking to like areas where they can sort of take a break away from the noise. And Dallas feels like that to me. Dallas feels like I can live away from the noise.
I just knew that it was something, there was like a spark. Dallas has way more than what I expected even moving here.
It's such a blank canvas. It's like a freaking playground.
So that's just been a big part of the ethos of the brand. It's like, this is a Dallas brand. If it ever has the privilege to grow worldwide, I want people to be like, oh yeah, like Patricio, Patricio, that's from Dallas. And you think of places like LA, New York, there's brands that come to mind. And you know, it would be a great honor and privilege for my brand when people think of Dallas, that's like, oh yeah, there's that brand out there, Patricio. And I think this city is just packed with creatives, like world-class talent out here that a lot of people just don't know of. Well, when I first came here, I was like, I didn't know anything about this city or the people in it. And I was like, this is happening here? This person's doing this here? Like that? I'm like, this is crazy. Why is it when people talk about Dallas, all they can say is the Cowboys and ask if people ride horses to the grocery store? I'm like, that's crazy. So this is just something I just wanted to do for the brand, is like, if I can help highlight, even if it's like my platform is very, very small, any way I can highlight anything about this city is just always at the heart of the brand. So something else I wanted to do was tell stories from my culture. I'm Filipino American. My parents were born in the Philippines. I was born in the States. So growing up, being different was not cool. You just wanted to fit in, you wanted to blend in, you wanted to do what everyone else was doing. You know, I was, one of those kids that showed up to school smelling like food all the time, and I was like so embarrassed by it. But as I grew older, I was like, it became a sense of pride. I was like, if I smell like rice and lumpia all the time, I'm like, hey, that's cool. Like, yeah, I'm like, because we cook that in the house. If I smell like fried fish, I'm like, hey, that's cool. That's my culture. You're smelling my culture. So I know a lot of minorities were thirsty for representation. And I know Filipinos were super thirsty for representation. We will claim, if you are 1/16 Filipino, we will claim you. If you are, a celebrity out there that is just a little bit Filipino, it's just, we want to see people like us doing things that we can look up to. So I was like, I just really want to highlight my culture in this. I think one of the conversations I had with myself is like, my stories are the best stories to tell. So I grew up Filipino American. A lot of the inspiration and the stories I want to tell is about me growing up being Filipino American, how food ties into my clothes. I had this inspiration for this video I did where growing up, I could remember being so embarrassed of smelling like food. I would come home and my mom's frying fish. I would run upstairs to my room, close my door, close my closet, put towels underneath my door so that the smell wouldn't seep into my room. So, because I was like, I knew I was going out with friends that night. I was like, I don't want my clothes to smell like food. But now just embracing things like that. And one of the things I wanted to do was for Asian American Pacific Islander Month a couple years ago, I was like, I want to just highlight more creatives in this city and specifically highlight Asian creatives. And this was one of the videos that we did. I did this in collaboration with Pia Swoon out here to make this video.
I would say that being Asian American or Pacific Islander is something to be proud of and is something that is not earned but is a birthright, and to use every single ounce of that in your creativity because that's what makes what you create original.
So if I had to say anything that I love about being Filipino is just how open we are with our hospitality, how open and inviting we are to everyone. Yeah, the camaraderie that we bring.
The Filipino culture is all about family.
I'm actually grateful for those people who gave me a chance. Little 15-year-old high schooler giving me, opportunities to do these bigger projects.
If you have a gift, don't neglect any of them.
I think it's important to see Asian Americans in creative spaces because usually I feel like Asian American voices are often muted.
The day you stop giving an F about what other people think about you is the day you're going to start succeeding in anything you do.
Be proud of who you are and never hide it.
So that's being a platform in this way for other creatives in this town, Asian Americans, everyone is just something that's always been on my heart and something that we'll always continue to do is just lift up these other creatives around us because it's all community. I mean, the creative community, especially here in Dallas, it can feel niche at times. It's like, when I first came out here, I was like, where are the creatives? And then I was like, where are the Asian creatives? And then I'm just seeing so many of them. And it's just like, man, this is a beautiful culture out here. So that was just an honor to do with Pia Swoon and to highlight these friends of mine. Really, really talented people. There's vignettes on each one of these creatives. You can see it on our Instagram. But going into this was the last shoot I did for the current collection of pieces that I have. I really wanted to tap into my Filipino culture and kind of highlight those things. the background and everything on this is inspired by a Filipino nipa hut. It's essentially, I would equate it to like a mobile home, RV. It's like they create these huts that are meant to be mobile. They're part of a village. They're all made of bamboo and coconut leaves. Essentially, if you wanted to move your house, everyone in the village gets on the side of it, everyone picks it up and moves it somewhere else if you want to change locations. So it's something that signifies community, like a tribe, a village, but just also having that be the backdrop of this latest photo shoot I did. And all these pieces are just kind of current collection of what I've been doing and where I'm currently at with the brand. And this final video is just showcasing the pieces and adding just touches of my Filipino culture in it.
Tuwing magpapasyal at dilim kumakagat, may tambal-tambal nagyayakap ng lantad. Tunay nga ibig ko'y paibig ng lubos, lubos nang ako'y mangarap ng hindi tulog, hayro.
So the goal with that was really to highlight the contrast, the juxtaposition, and also the unity between Filipino and American. This Filipino backdrop, these Filipino models, all in very American kind of Western inspired clothing. The all denim, the workwear, these, something that's, silhouettes are the oversized silhouettes that are trendy right now, but just having that juxtaposition of, this brand and kind of what I've infused into it of being Filipino American. So that's si Patricio. Thank you guys.
Do you guys have time? Or you have time for a question or two?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Any questions, y'all? Press on the talk. If not, we can also just ask Martina.
Of course.
Martina always has a question. There you go.
No, I'm just interested, where are you getting your pieces made? Are you getting them made here locally? Are you getting them made in Los Angeles still? Because I know there is a lot more infrastructure for fabrication of clothing.
Yeah. At first, I was making everything here. It first started with I was making every single piece myself. Then it got to a point where it's just I'm one person and can't do that on my own. I was exploring some manufacturers out here, but a lot of the denim industry that used to be here kind of left. So denim requires some specific machines and just specific attention to it. And I'm still trying to explore what it would look like to bring manufacturing here locally to do my stuff, and that would be the dream. But right now, everything is, I'm working with a small batch manufacturer out in LA that's making all my pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
What's next for C. Patricio? Like going into 2025, what's next?
What's next? I'm already thinking about 2026. There's kind of a spring collection that I have that I would love to launch. Everything right now is direct to consumer, and I'm wanting to get into the wholesale side of the business. So I'm working on growing that side of things, setting up a wholesale infrastructure for the business. But for 2025, I kind of just want to do some reiterations of what I currently have. Playing with some prepared for dyed denim, everything in natural dyeing, wanting to play with some custom colors, unique colorways, some natural dyes. I think I would love to start exploring that with the pieces, where it's the denim fabric, but done in unique colors, unique colorways. Oh, Cliff, y'all. So yeah, that's next. I'm really wanting to start playing with a lot more natural dyes for 2025. Yeah.
That was fun hearing that Hans connect. We had him a couple seasons ago give a talk. So time for a couple more questions if anyone has any. Yeah.
Big or small, what has been your favorite lesson in owning your business?
Man,
Keyword or, small or big? Business.
I think the biggest lesson is focusing on the word business. That's something I did not do for a long time. I'm very much more creative driven, not driven by the business side of things. Even just like figuring out paying taxes on with my brand and putting money aside for that, and like, okay, how do we grow, have a structure here for this to be an actual business? I just want to sit at the sewing machine and sew stuff all day. But at the end of the day, I was like, oh, these dreams that I have for the brand to grow and for it to, you know, be able to be influential in certain spaces, I was like, it needs to be a business, it needs to grow. So I think the biggest lesson learned was, not focusing on the business side early enough. And so I wish I would have at the beginning. I think I had my creative down pretty solid, and I think I needed to early on be like, okay, now I need to really put some infrastructure and some bones for this creativity to grow on. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw you had the Virgil Abloh photo there. What other creative designers inspire you, or who do you consider your role models in that space?
Yeah, I think Virgil, for a lot of us, was a big inspiration. Along the lines of him, I mean, I've always looked to Pharrell as a big inspiration. Just him being unique and always doing what kind of he wanted to do. But designer-wise, I look to Japanese designers a lot. I think Yohji Yamamoto was my first entry point into fashion through his ongoing collaboration with Adidas, Y3. He was kind of my entry point into high fashion, and from there going through like the whole Comme des Garçons umbrella from Rei Kawakubo and Junior Watanabe and these Japanese designers. I love the Japanese mindset and their excellence towards things and how they look to the past a lot to design for the future. I think Yohji Yamamoto has a quote where he talks about, something along the lines of like, I walk backwards into the past. I mean, into the future. I walk backwards into the future. So he's like keeping his eyes on the past while moving forward. So the Japanese a lot are a big source of inspiration for me. Yeah.
Got time for one last one? Bettina finishes up. Yeah.
I'm just interested, who taught you how to sew?
Sure. So at first, I went to fashion school in LA. I went to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. But school was really overwhelming. I learned a lot and I forgot a lot. So I think when I started my brand, YouTube University was a great resource. You can pretty much learn anything you want on YouTube. It is like the original masterclass. So yeah, I started, if there was some things I forgot, I was like, wow, how do I do this seam? How do I make this cleaner? How do I do that? I would search YouTube and I found a lot of videos on there that helped me in my journey and just to refine my skills on there. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we're so thankful that Crespatrick finished us out for the season. We're going to come back in the spring. We'll announce that later. I think you'll hang around for a little bit in the back. And let's give him a round of applause.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you, man.